push the button. And then as I go live, everyone will wonder what's going on.
Just push the button.
Because yet again, it's another week where my new intro did not get finished.
Oh.
But I have really good excuses this time, guys. I got a load of of Charles Adams collections.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah. I ended up being able to pick up
it is.
in the last several weeks. I found some really great auctions, and I was able to pick up Drawn and Quartered and Nightcrawlers and Adams and Evil and the Groaning Board and My Crowd and Favorite Haunts, to add to what I already had, which is Monster Rally and Homebodies.
And those are all Adams Family books?
Well, they're Adams cartoons in general.
Right. Okay.
So it's Adams Family, and there are
Charles Adams. Yeah.
Charles Adams stuff, right?
Gotcha.
Charles Adams stuff. So, yeah, a bunch of New Yorker stuff and some unpublished stuff, and yeah. There are two of his anthologies that I don't have yet. One is Black Mariah, and the last one before his death, Creature Comforts. So yeah, I've been reading the heck out of Charles Adams books.
So you need Black Mariah and Creature Comforts.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go find them for you.
Well, I need money before I get ready to go look for those. I also want to shout out. I got in the mail Miriam by Joy Waller, also known as Evie in the chat. Or wait, she changed her name on here. What does she go by on our YouTube chat now? I forgot. Anyway, she's the one who did that drawing of Twitless down there.
Yep.
And this is one of her graphic novels. It is. I read the whole thing online as it was page by page, but I bought the collected volume because it's so cool.
Hey, guess what? I found it. Creature Comforts. It's only $660 on Etsy. There you go. Found it for you.
Wow.
I have the willingness to buy really ratty copies so I can just get the stories, and that's the beauty of my collection. In fact, check this out. This copy of Drawn and Quartered was read by somebody like on the subway or whatever, and it's folded over the edges.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all like it's a parallelogram, not a rectangle on the sides. My son, of course, grew up, in the age of the digital book. He was just like, how does a book get like that? I was in my reading it folded around itself. And he says, oh, people did that? Yes, they did.
Okay. I found it for $4. So you can get it for $660 or $4.
Or $4. Oh, $4 might be right on the thing. We'll have to talk after the show.
Yes, I will. I'll get you these
see
links.
if it's still there.
I was gonna say let's get on topic.
Sure. Well, I just wanted. Well, I understand the need to be on topic. I absolutely do, and I'm not trying to just derail things. But I did want to celebrate all this great Adams comics and cartoons that I have because because they are really funny.
Speaking of another weird family, Fantastic Four. Here, I can
there you
segue
go.
Segue.
That's a
Beautiful.
Segue. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, did we all actually, I gotta be honest, this last week I did not read any Fantastic Four. not a word. I read the most recent Cat on the Run, and I read all these Addams Family. Because last week I read Fantastic Four through issue 5, so I was already caught up.
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good then. Yeah, that's fine.
So quick hits. We're talking about what we liked about Fantastic Four conceptually last week. We talked pretty in depth about the first issue and all this kind of stuff. But what do people think after digging into the general ideas, digging into these other issues? Especially Hutch, I want to hear your perspective on this.
Well, as someone who has only read like one Marvel comic in his life. Now we're on 2.
Right. To recap for anybody who missed it last week, I've never read a full Marvel comic. I think I read like a library book that had selected scenes from Spider-Man or stuff, like because I knew like I'd seen glimpses here and there. I knew origins of the characters and from I'd known cultural osmosis, but I'd never sat down and read cover to cover a Marvel comic, except for like Spidey super stories with the Electric Company. So so I read up to issue 5 so that I know up to Doctor Doom's first appearance. And so we're talking the Skrulls. Issue 2 is the Skrulls. Issue 3 is Miracle Man or whatever his name is. Issue 4 is the what's his name? Submariner. And issue 5 is Doctor Doom. So Skrulls, of those, I know that the Miracle Guy has never been seen again, and the others are all like some of the biggest recurring people in Marvel. Yeah. So, yeah. But I did find a lot of the arguing is contrived. It's just the Thing is mad, and Johnny Storm gets fighting him, and it's like they get set off for no reason. They're just always at each other because that's the Thing, and it's like it never seems to flow naturally from what's happening. It's like I need to get him mad here.
It feels more like just older writing.
Yeah. And it may be that this is for little kids and you don't need any explanation, but it's
maybe I'm cheating because I already know something about the characters, but it makes sense that the Thing, easily has a grudge against things, and that Johnny can easily be set off once you.
Well, the Doctor
surprised at what went down.
The Doctor Doom one, the Thing actually goes back in time to steal Blackbeard's treasure, and his disguise has a black beard, and it turns out he is Blackbeard. There was no Blackbeard except for him, and so his treasure is Blackbeard's treasure, and they're like, "All right, we can go back to see Doctor Doom, and we've got the treasure he's looking for," and the Thing actually throws them into a boat and abandons them because he'd rather stay there and be Blackbeard because his people love him and he's adored and he doesn't want to go back to his old life. And it's like, wow, he actually leaves them in a dinghy.
Yeah.
What's that?
That is early to be in the comic to be doing a story like that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's and panels later, the boat is destroyed and he's like, guys, I'm sorry. And it's like, okay. It's like he left them in a boat to die. Not to die. Dr. Doom's going to pick them up, but the story was kind of interesting. What I noticed though is that the time travel machine is like this big descending square that comes from the ceiling down to the floor. I'm like, that's how John Krasinski appeared in the Doctor Strange? The Multiverse of Madness movie. That's the one. When he appears with that little descending square thing, and I'm like, so that's a thing.
Yes.
That has been, I don't know, Doctor Doom or
it's
Reed
Doom
Richards since that time they've used that.
Doom's time platform, which is that square effect, has basically that's like along with Kirby Crackle is one of those sort of visual cues. Along with a host of things Kirby did, like the Omega beams from Darkseid. It's a visual touch that becomes canon, and like everyone else who draws it has to basically give that nod to this is how this thing is represented, and so they do that nod, I guess, in that film where Mr. Fantastic has it. Yeah, but it's very much it originated here. It's Doom's thing, and they still do it. I believe in I think it was it Age of Ultron, the recentish crossover, same thing. It's still around.
See, Multiverse of Madness was not a great movie, but that I could imagine if you're a Marvel fan and you see that, you had to just be flipping out. It's like, all right, they finally did this, and it's Reed Richards in the actual MCU. It is like, if they hadn't spoiled the surprise by releasing that scene early, that would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Or maybe, maybe not killed him off 5 seconds into it.
That was really annoying. Yeah.
So I want to add on to something that Hutch is noticing, which I'd like to kind of talk about as part of our discussion, which is the fact that this is I still enjoy, and I still see a lot of value in the early Fantastic Four run. Some of these stories actually, and I actually say this about a lot of early Marvel. Some of the early stuff, even when it's at its roughest, I still think has never been topped. I think about first appearance of Juggernaut in X-Men. It never been topped. First appearance of like the Scorpion with Ditko and Lee, never been topped. And I would say that some of the early adventures of like I think it's just a few issues after what we read, where might be issue 6 actually, where Doom like launches the Baxter Building into space. Again, never been quite topped. This is like, it's just these moments that are just like a part of comics history. That being said, this is some of Stan Lee's very I don't think it's the first comics he wrote, but it's some of his early work, especially with collaborating with Kirby in a superhero vein. And so that Marvel method that became the house style for a whole period is being fleshed out in Fantastic Four. So it definitely tracks that you're going to see a learning curve. Like we're watching Lee and Kirby figure out how to create the Marvel universe, and there's going to be some early stumbles and such. So I think that some of what we're seeing specifically in Fantastic Four, because that's where it starts, we're going to see that. We're going to see those rough edges. We're going to see like stuff where where Lee is going to be, working on his craft, honing it. Same thing with Kirby. So this is an interesting journey because it's not just Hutch's first Marvel comic. It's Hutch's first Marvel comic reading the first Marvel comics where they really became the Marvel that we know.
Right.
So that's two things at the same time. So this is very, very this is them crawling before they run.
Sure. And I'm aware of that as I'm reading this. It's like I know that, like as I said last week, this is like the Star Trek Next Generation first season, which is, it sets up everything and it builds a lot, but it's also very rough and almost you can't go back and reread it or rewatch it. It's like rereading these stories. It's like, well, it's kind of ham-handed compared to what will come, and I try to remind myself that right around the same time, the Justice League, as much as I love the Silver Age Justice League, it's like they have amazing premises and amazing covers, and the stories kind of suck. A lot of them do. I mean, he'll have like, this is the Julius Schwartz, comes up with the great cover idea of the Justice League is fighting their costumes that are like, they're animated costumes with no bodies inside, and they're fighting their costumes on the cover. Now turn that into a story. And it's like, okay. And then the story is kind of, well, they did make it happen, but it's not that great a story. There's a lot of stories like that are, they're classics, but they're kind of hard to read nowadays. So, DC has that too, is what I'm saying.
No, yeah. And so I know it's not new to you, but this at the time, adding this amount of melodrama was a novel thing to put in a superhero comic. Mm-hmm. And whether it comes across the way it does or not, how we can critique that. This was new. Like, we have superheroes who aren't just like mildly disagreeing about something. They're like in these early appearances, you have them. I think the only one who doesn't end up in fisticuffs of some fashion is Sue. Yeah. And Sue is basically going, "Boys, stop fighting."
Even that's Reed, her job.
Right,
Yeah.
but even Reed is like tangling with Ben, even if
Well,
it's
yeah, and
more
that's
to like
actually
restrain
You
him.
know?
He's
that's
usually
actually one of the
restraining
funny
him, so
things.
he's stopping
Well,
him too.
You'll
Yeah.
notice
Yeah.
I notice I see that almost every issue at this point, and I think that's just because somebody really loves the visual of someone like Thing being able to be restrained by a giant
Yeah.
Mister
Well, and
String.
one of the things I really enjoyed, like after our stream last week in our private chat, um, Metal brought up a really interesting thing that makes a ton of sense that I'd never thought of. Is that the idea about Thing as a rock monster?
Yeah, that was
In
interesting.
some cases isn't the original idea that he was a real thing. He was like a monkey or a gorilla with dinosaur skin
Hmm.
kind of idea. Just
Yeah.
he really was a thing, and I really like that conceptually, and it really makes sense of how he was drawn, and especially in the first 3 issues.
Yeah. Well, with the Skrulls, I pointed it out because I knew that wasn't the thing. The moment I saw him, it's the splash panel. He is attacking a oil rig, and I'm like, he can't swim. He has no buoyancy. He's a rock. Unless he's made of pumice, he would sink like a stone. And even if he's not rock, he's I don't think he's a very floatable person.
Yeah.
So I immediately knew that was that was a Skrull. Although I don't know, maybe it's been established that he can swim very well. I mean,
I think it depends on the angle on that particular panel. I could see it be interpreted either way. It could either be he is swimming, or like he is coterminous with the shoreline. He's either like launching off the shore, because the next time you see him, he's on the bottom of the ocean. So you could you could read it either way potentially.
Yeah.
yeah, there it is. Right, it's the opening. Yeah,
Yep.
there he is. Meet the Skrulls from outer space, and he's sinking under the water. You're right. From there on, he's going down. So maybe that's the case.
But you're still right. That is a scroll.
Yeah, it is.
So let's talk each story, right? So Skrulls. The Skrulls were of course they became one of the staples of the Marvel universe. The idea about their space presence, the Super Skrull returns. Of course, this very story became the origin for a somewhat questionable Marvel event from the early aughts, late 90s.
I actually remember that. I remember everybody's a
Skrull.
Skrull is basically how it was described,
Well,
right?
Yeah, well,
You're referring to the original Marvel Zombies?
Secret
No.
Invasion.
There's Secret Invasion, but there's also the Skrull Kill Crew that was before that, and it was like kind of like the New Blood characters, but what it was is there are these people that ate the cows, the Skrull cows, and they didn't know it because they were regular cows. They and so these people grew up, and some of them had Skrull type superpowers, but all of them had like some degenerative disease. And so what they were doing is they were hunting down the Skrulls that had this was, I can't remember if this was for a prequel to Secret Invasion or whatever, but the idea is there had been other Skrulls that had infiltrated Earth society, and so the Skrull Kill Crew were going around killing Skrulls as vengeance for their impending death. And it was very, 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 very pocket era, very 1990s.
So they predicted Mad Cow?
Well, Mad Cow's been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
But
that is that's terrible. And that sweet story with he made them cows, and
I knew that was a bad idea.
I thought
it's like
I don't even know if that's canonically correct, because I'm pretty sure they uncow themselves. That's like the next time the Skrulls show up, someone like fixes them. So I'm like,
I never thought I would hear someone use the term uncow.
Uncow themselves.
Thought they got uncowed. So unless they get recowed, it's been a while. That's interesting.
Let's see if we can find some information on here. You guys keep talking about cows, and I will be back.
Well, I just thought it was a very interesting solution that he came up with. That he would make them change into something, and then he would hypnotize them to forget their personalities. I'm like, is he that good a hypnotist? Is Mr. Fantastic a terrific hypnotist that he can make you forget that you are not a cow?
Hush, he's a fantastic hypnotist.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
That's another one of those things because it's one of those things that's kind of like mentioned maybe once and then never. It's funny because like the issue right after that, they actually face a hypnotist, and then don't know it. Until Mr. Fantastic finally realizes it, which would have been nice to kind of like connect those two things.
Right.
Like
that would have been really thought out.
Like as a hypnotist, I recognize that he's a hypnotist.
Right. Yeah. But Stanley clearly wasn't like thinking that far ahead. He's in the moment. Stanley's very much at this moment. He's just in the moment. He writes the things like off the top of his head.
Yeah.
Which is.
And he has you under the spell of the hypnotist until the guy is blinded and loses his vision, and then everybody snaps out of being hypnotized. It's like it's like his idea of hypnosis is more like mind control than because I don't know how you hypnotize everybody and then say, and you saw me cut through some wood, and everybody goes, oh, I saw him cut wood.
So that's probably coming. I'm imagining that's coming from. Who is it?
I mean, how many times have I said Lee never does his research about anything?
True.
Who's the one? Mandrake. It's I think he's probably because Lee grew up with the pop culture of his time.
Yeah.
So he knows the Phantom. He knows the comic strips of his day. He knows Mandrake the Magician.
Okay.
And I believe Mandrake the Magician basically operates similarly to this, where like he does a bunch of magic stuff, but I'm just hypnotizing you, bro, and you're like, it's not really hypnotism what he's doing, really, but like they can just hand wave it as like whatever he can do on the comic book panel. They excuse it under hypnotism. Mr. Miracle, Mandrake the Magician. It's I think it's pretty clear where Lee is yanking for this.
Also, the shadow. That was the shadows bit too. The idea that it was
cloud your mind.
This mind clouding hypnotism kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. But so there was more than one for him to pull from.
Right. The one difference is the classic, the shadows, power of mind is just to make people not see him, right? Or to not notice that he's there. Right. And that's a bit different. That's a bit different than I could have swore there was this giant paper mache monster wrecking town.
Well, I've got this headcanon now that says that the Skrulls did not get eaten, and instead they became the Chick-fil-A cows.
Yeah, you'd think that after you kill them, they would revert to their original. I mean, if you behead them, do they still stay in the shape they're in instead of reverting to the?
Why would they? There's nothing to tell like the cells to go back anymore.
I guess I would think that the cells are disguised and
disguise
takes. I don't know.
So if a Skrull mimicked Wolverine, and then you killed them, would they believe they are now Wolverine?
Well, now when they became the Human Torch, they didn't have firepower. When they became, they needed things to fake it because imitating did not give them the abilities. Thus, becoming a cow does not give you the taste of a cow or the four stomachs of a cow.
No, it just gives you the form of a cow.
Yes,
well, they're shapeshifters, so they could potentially have the four stomachs.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And also,
if they knew anything about a cow.
Muscle is a lot easier to manipulate than suddenly getting superpowers.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. You guys are putting way more thought than Stanley was putting it into this.
Hilarious.
Oh, absolutely. Literally everyone puts more thought into anything than Stanley.
That's true. That's fair. That's fair.
You can tell when they just want to wrap up a book with an easy solution. It'll be like, and then he gets away. There, that's the last page.
Right.
Or okay, and they're jailed. It's like they do that all the time. Even in DC Comics, it kind of bugged me because they would defeat the was it the crime syndicate on Earth 3, and their solution is to just put them in a floating jail cell in between the dimensions. It has no toilet, it has no food, and you're sticking the woman in with the men in this jail cell and just sealing them off and saying bye. And then and then they defeat Kanjar Ro and the 3 other dictators, and they just trap them on a planet and say, okay, you're living there now, bye. And it's like, and they put a shield around it so they can't leave, and that's it. It's like,
Yeah, it's like
is there food?
trapping Napoleon on an island, except theirs was smarter because nobody actually put like a wall to stop Napoleon from getting off the island.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I do want to agree with, I wanted to highlight what Hutch had mentioned, which is the fact that, and if you want to share my screen, I've got some images to share from that this issue. But it's very inventive how they end this, right? Because the whole pitch of the Skrull issue is that the Skrulls are impersonating the Fantastic Four to ruin their reputation, so the government goes at them because the Skrulls want to invade. They have an invasion fleet. So you have a kind of an alien invasion story. And the Fantastic Four defeat them not by just using, like, their powers, really, but Mr. Fantastic uses a misinformation campaign, and shows them a bunch of comic books, basically, and film reels, and says, look at all this horror that the Earth has. So he tricks them. He tricks the alien invasion. They leave, and then the Skrulls that they have that were impersonating them, they do that, make them into cows, make them happily live ever after as cows. And it's just a very different
dinner time.
Right. So it's a very different kind of ending for an alien invasion story, and they're able to play it off with Silver Age kitsch, but without making it entirely silly. There are some comics that would go really far into the silly territory with dealing with aliens in this time period, and the Fantastic Four is managing to play it fairly straight, while at the same time doing some fairly, insane things with the premises. And so they're juggling those, Lee and Kirby are juggling those things fairly well. So when you get to the end of the story, at least in my readings of it, I've always treated this as, with a fair, like, with that level of, they're taking the story seriously, even if this, the premise has got some wackiness to it. So I think that's part of also what people, from what my reading of the time, is what people resonated with. They knew it was kitschy. Like, that is something. Marvel kitsch was like a term, and the college students were reading this and they're like, oh, that's kind of a wacky premise, but they got invested in the fact the story was taking itself seriously and wasn't just treating it as a joke. And that built into the Marvel fandom of the time.
I think that's just like a timeless attitude, though, right? Anybody who, at least the world, takes itself seriously, as no matter how ridiculous it is, people tend to like that more.
Yeah, it's a manga does this all the time. Like, they'll have a ridiculous premise, but they'll take it deadly seriously, and because the story takes itself seriously, so does the audience. So you're seeing that happen even with the rough spots. And like I said, especially I think the first 3 issues, I think, are the roughest. I don't know what you guys feel about that. I think FF 1 through 3 is where they really are figuring out what they want to do with the comic. 4 onwards, it feels like they started figuring it out. The first 3 are just very experimental, weird, and like I said, jagged edges everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's weird that the Skrulls think that they will have no problem invading, except for these 4 people: the stretchy guy, the invisible lady, and the one flame guy, and the strong guy. It's like, oh, we can't defeat them. We're going to need to but the military can, apparently, if you can convince the military that they're a threat. It's like, it doesn't really make sense. But I love the idea of it, that they're like, oh, that would probably be trouble, so we'll need to go sabotage them.
Yeah,
you need an excuse.
Like the Fantastic
Four. Excuse, really. Yeah,
they're in a vacuum right now. But as things progress, like, Earth just seems to be the worst place possible to try to invade. If you think of, like, all of the crazy powered people that live on it, like, why would you even want to mess with that planet?
Yeah. Well, in DC Comics, it made sense because they decided to invade because they're like, why are there all these superheroes on this planet, not on other planets? There must be something about that planet. Let's go invade and find out. So, I mean, it actually made sense that they would want to because they're like, this is weird. Why can't we get superheroes? It's like, why don't we on our planets have superheroes? So they go investigate it. That actually makes sense. But here they are the only ones because this is before everything else. I mean, they just introduced Hulk like the next month. So, and I don't know about the other characters when they come out, but these are the first. And they aren't even superheroes at this point. They're just strong people, the second issue here. The third issue is where they come up with costumes and the flying car that turns into a sectional flying car. And
I love the
tower.
sectional flying car.
I know,
like
that's really
unironically,
cool.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild how early that shows up.
Right.
Mhm.
You think that was a later edition? That's issue 3.
Nope.
Yeah.
Fantastic cars invented.
I realized
I was
they would
amazed.
refine it and revise it over time, but it's still a cool idea no matter how it looks.
I was amazed
Yeah.
that issue 2 they were already doing a doppelganger comic.
Yeah, that's
They
interesting.
barely
Yeah.
had time to establish these guys as heroes before they're being made into villains.
Well, and they weren't really heroes to begin with, right? That's one of the
Mhm.
things about it. Like they do
they're
heroic
just some
stuff in
dudes.
the first issue, but
Mhm.
it's not like superhero stuff. It's just like, well, we happen to be there at the right time when all this went down.
They're doing the challenges of the unknown thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, until Lee gets all the letters. And they get a whole bunch of apparently got a whole bunch of letters, and the letter says, "What are you guys thinking? Where are the outfits?" And Lee's like, "Okay, as of issue 3."
Well, I just like to say that I found this story very moving.
Oh my gosh.
I do
I think
like
I
I do like the way that they
final.
all found a way to escape their containments.
Yeah, that was.
And you're
that was
right.
fun.
Yeah, you're right that they do come up with asbestos everywhere in dealing with the Human Torch.
So much cancer.
I was mainly just annoyed
Mesothelioma.
that they give themselves up to be peaceful and then
then they
Immediately
try to save.
violently break out. Yeah.
What the heck is that? Like, thought you had a plan here.
So also to point out, I did do some looking up. The Skrull Kill Crew came out in '95, and then they had a reboot series after Invasion or whatever, the Secret Invasion, which was in 2008, and then the follow up was Skrull Kill Crew's sequel series was in '09. So.
I looked up, and apparently, according to Wikipedia, I was correct. They uncow themselves, but then they get recowed, which is exactly what we were just. So what I said basically is the lore.
So who recows them? Does that just?
I think it's the U.S. It's apparently the U.S. government recows them.
Do we see that on
As their
panel?
prerogative.
Yeah.
Do we see that? Does that happen? Does the recowing happen on panel, or is that just something they did for the?
That I don't know. I know.
I hope this becomes a major meme on this channel.
Recowing.
Recowing.
It's possible. It's possible.
I do love that if he can find the tiniest hole, he can fit through it, but so can his clothing. That's always bothered. I mean, as you might imagine, I've done a lot of thinking about that with, Ralph Dibny. It's like how, not only does he have to go through a tiny, tiny hole, but also you have to have fabric that can go that small.
So when they get his outfit, that's where that's where they create the concept, which is really cool, called the unstable molecule. And so their suits, when they actually get them, and actually I don't remember when they actually introduced this concept, but it's all the Fantastic Four outfits are made out of unstable molecules, and the molecules are I believe correlate to their unique cosmic storm radiation. Mm-hmm. And so it's the idea that becomes the lore reason. In fact, the concept unstable molecule becomes such another byword for pop culture that they were able to make it into its own standalone graphic novel, which I read, which is where they do it's the Fantastic Four without any superpowers. The whole thing is just like played straight like 1960s Mad Men. Which is a kind of interesting comic to read. But yeah, unstable molecules becomes the reason. Not in this issue. This issue, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
like
that
they didn't.
church is stretching on its own.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just didn't want to have to draw this guy in shredded clothes.
This
Which
was
Right.
a bit of a roller coaster for me, because when I first heard that in the beginning they didn't have any costumes, I was like, "Ooh, that's great! I don't like superhero costumes. This will be like heroes or something, right?" I
Mhm.
forgot what powers they had. If you know me, I am a major stickler about that kind of thing, about how your clothes, correlate to what kind of powers you have. And so I looked at the very first, just the cover, the very first issue, and so I was like, "Oh crap, that's right." And then it just went from "oh boy" to almost unbearable. And I'm not a fan either of, like, when it comes to powers and clothes, I would prefer that you either deal with the consequences or have to find creative ways around it. I'm not a fan either of the, "oh, I just have a costume that does the same stuff with me that I can," because, like, if you've figured out a way to invent an invisible material, congratulations, you've invented invisibility. Now
Yeah,
everybody
you
can
don't need powers.
no, but that's the point. Is that the
but
unstable
wait,
molecule
wait,
works.
but
So
that being said, there is something about them all being in costume that still makes it a whole lot easier for me to forget that their powers should be problematic.
Right. What I was trying to say
Johnny
was that
didn't
because
know
of the
his
way
favorite
they
car.
the reason they come up with I like, because it's not that Mr. Fantastic invented invisible
I get that.
clothes. It's just like, again, there's this molecule that reacts to her.
Yeah.
And so if he put it on Johnny, it reacts to him, and if he put it on a
I'm
normal
saying in
person,
general,
it reacts to nothing. And that's actually, in my opinion, a really, especially since he's supposed to be a mad scientist character, so he could invent something kind of kooky like that. Um, it's always bizarre because some of the feats
I
that they're
prefer when he invents it, even though I liked the early 2000s movie where it was like, oh no, it's just because the cosmic rays hit your suit at the same time as it hit you, it reacts in the same way. It's
right.
like, it makes sense, but it's
Mm,
lamer than Mr. Fantastic inventing
yeah,
it
I don't like
himself.
that.
Mr. Fantastic's feats in some of these early comics, it's so funny considering the film that came out. Mr. Fantastic like ties himself up into some crazy knots where he's stretching like a half mile. So you're seeing him do some feats with his stretchiness that that seems to be he doesn't do as much in certain media. And then like some of the things he creates and invents in some of these early stories are it's like he creates life pretty early on. He's like, I created life in a jar. It lasted for 8 seconds. And it's like it's just so wild how like typically
It's
power
still more
creep.
impressive than anybody's done in
Yeah,
our
right.
real world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Power.
for sure.
The way
If-
power creep happens in comics, you know what I mean? It's just like often like they
Oh,
get
yeah.
way more powerful over time. But Mr. Fantastic is coming out with like swinging for the fences really early.
To be fair, he does also become like crazily way more powerful over time too. Like you have things like
Yeah.
Reed holds up an entire mountain from crushing other superheroes later on, or even to more modern stuff where like, he's like the concept of stretchiness and he's holding together the fabric of the universe or stretching between different like universes and stuff.
That's insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
If I have one gripe about the Fantastic Four in general, it is him having this superpower, but then also being this super genius and figuring out, half the time he just, invents his way to victory. If it were I would have created the Fantastic Five, and one of them would have been a super genius, and that would have been his invention. I mean, his superpower. Just saying.
Well, okay. That's interesting.
They beat the power. Yes, that is correct. They beat them through the power of comics. That is
So
technically. Yeah.
the other thing is, I also, in talking about what Metal was saying earlier last week about the thingness, right? The other thing that I think is bizarre about that is like that means that the whole like classical elements part of the Fantastic Four is an afterthought as well, and it's just like, wait, what?
Yeah, because like Kirby's even said in interviews before that when he was drawing him, he saw it more like he was drawing a very thick, almost dinosaur hide, like if you were drawing a gorilla covered in dinosaur skin.
Right.
Right. And
But I
that's just
never thought. Well, I mean, while I always got the elements thing, I never thought they perfectly encapsulated it either.
well, no.
I think that's just one of those happy accidents. There are a lot of things that happen in comics when I'm writing stuff, and afterwards I'm like, wow, that perfectly
Oh,
synergizes
gosh,
with
story of my
something.
life.
And I go, yeah, I totally did that on purpose. And it just
Yeah,
very
but it's one of
happy
those things
accident.
where, but it's one of those things where, like, you know, the there's also the four humors, and you definitely have
Right.
the character traits of the Fantastic Four is reflected in the four humors too. And so I had just seen this, you know, this multiplexity of fours, and with the thing, and I'm like, that's a real dedication to a numerological concept there, Stan. But no, it was all accidental, and or half of it, or something of it.
Maybe incidental.
Incidental,
Because I
yeah.
think even having like that tougher skin, it still kind of represents Earth in a way, like
Yep.
just this tougher, rockier substance.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
that would be
Bob
actually
Ross
maybe
always
even-
says, just happy accidents.
Yeah. So, the of course the scrolls, the enemy, within that whole thing. I gotta say, I want to one thing before we want to move on from the scrolls though, is Isaac and Jim were cracking wise up earlier, and says that it's Big Brother making us all cattle, man. It's the system, bro. I thought that was great.
That works.
And then it's the Skrulls, not Big Brother. Skrulls are everywhere. But that got me thinking. That little exchange got me thinking about They Live, the Roddy Piper movie
Yeah.
about aliens, you know, masking themselves and infiltrating society and everything. And
I don't know if it's ever happened, but there should be a comic where it's showing the infiltrators' perspective, and it's like constantly just Hydra and the Skrulls trying to control the government from the inside and stepping on each other's toes and not being able to tell who's who apart from each
or
other.
just doing a really, really bad job of it. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And like
now
you think it's just pure incompetence, but it's actually two different groups working against each other and they don't even realize it.
that'd be amazing.
Oh, you mean like the Republican Democrat parties?
Sort of.
No, what was always horrifying about that movie to me, though, is that, you know, here's this guy raving around like a lunatic shooting people, and nobody else can see what he sees. How do you know that he isn't just a lunatic seeing what he wants to see? I mean, this could actually just be some crazy people murdering people, thinking he's the hero.
Well, I mean, other
Yeah.
people put the glasses on.
Yeah, and that's
Oh,
actually
did
a
they?
big, that's
Oh,
actually
okay.
one of the plot points in the film. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, just seen
Or
pieces
it's been
of
a
it.
while.
It's
I
a
had
really
never seen
good
it before
street
until like
fight.
last fall.
With
Yeah.
Roddy Piper and Keith David in a back alley over that exact thing. It's like the best part of the whole movie.
That is definitely the best part of the whole movie. It's kind of a mid movie, and it's really like very much a product of its time in the way that it's got a very like mixed messaging, right? Like it
Yeah.
tries really, really, really hard to make Hollywood seem like the good guy, while it's also explicitly the bad guy in the story. And
Well,
so
it tries to be anti-capitalist and inadvertently, you know, reveals the truth about the deep state.
yeah, because it's like the yeah, exactly. And
But also, like, the only thing the aliens want is also like good for you. It's like, yeah, go get married and have a family and stuff.
Yeah, reproduce.
Yeah.
How dare you? No, like it's extinct yourself. That's the way to do things.
right, well, and
Yeah.
it's crazy too, because it's just like, you know, I mean, it's definitely like free will is better than not, right? But it's yeah, anyway, it's
I
just
read
funny.
the original story, and it's only like 5 pages long.
Whoa!
Yeah, it does not take long to read.
That's wild
And-
how often that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those disturbing. You know how Matrix is kind of disturbing. If
Right.
you know, it's like, oh, so you've made this world where anybody who isn't in on the on the rebellion with you can be killed, and you explain it away as well. They are spying for the opposite, and it's like, this would be great if it didn't have the possibility of somebody believing it's real and going around killing all the cops because they work for the Matrix.
Right, that's
It's
what I'm
like,
talking about. It's like
yeah,
the theoretical possibility that this person is just psychotic and seeing things.
Mhm.
Well, and that's one thing. That one scene in the Matrix is really unnecessary, from like a computer user perspective, right? Because you
Which
can
scene?
just reset a program and it doesn't kill
Okay.
it, right?
We're about to derail heavily. We gotta.
I know.
All right.
We'll come back around. So
Okay.
we
So-
talked about the scrolls. We did venture into talking about.
Can we skip issue 3 a little bit? That one is so lame.
Yeah,
I have no
We
problem with
gotta
that.
talk about
Can we? But I want to share one image though before we
Okay.
skip. So this is Mr. Miracle and he Miracle Man and he is using hypnotism to create a kaiju because, again, like I said, the first few issues of this are just giant monster stories, and we get to see Mr. Fantastic doing something really awesome. He's stretching like a half mile here. It seems, and that's quite a feat. But what's really funny is that Miracle Man catches Mr. Fantastic doing so and then decides to stop him from tangling up his kaiju, and he does so by picking up a brick.
Yeah.
And it's such a funny, hilarious way of beating your opposition, because you just see a guy, because in the end you find out he doesn't have any powers. He's just hurling a brick at the guy's head. It's just,
well, and this is
funny.
To back up a little bit, just so everyone knows, we were talking about this earlier. This is the mesmerist story, the Mr. Miracle or whatever. He is the hypnotist character.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
this is
and
this
then once
also
again,
just shouldn't work against Reed. If he's got stretchy powers, like throwing a brick at him, he's just like flat in his head or whatever, and it doesn't do anything. It's really a bonehead move on Reed's part for letting this work on him.
I like the idea though that he is not, and I've always liked it when Reed isn't completely impervious to physical problems. If he's not actively
like he'd have to
about
see it coming or whatever.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's a bonehead move on Reed's part here.
Yeah.
But
He still has a brain. But the other thing about this is this is all mesmerism. This is all hypnotism, and yet like the guy couldn't just convince Reed that he's not actually strung across the.
No, that's a real brick.
That's a real brick.
It's a real brick.
Well, how do you know?
Because if he was using his power, he would have done something cool.
He could be lame. He might think throwing a brick at somebody's cool. I mean, I think it's pretty cool to throw bricks at people. So.
Okay, Ignatz.
Oh, God.
So, Jim Tuner points
that's
out.
quite the inside joke.
There you go. It shouldn't be. It's a comic book show.
True. But,
So Jim Tuner says the Miracle Man will return in Fantastic Four 193 in the 70s, and his powers will be made real by the magic Indian gods.
139.
39. Yeah.
Yeah. Little dyslexic.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's 139. Okay.
No, it's not dyslexia. Actually, it's a related condition.
Okay. I don't mean to be picking on you. It's 139.
It's
just making sure.
It's specifically numbers.
Yeah.
And I've had it since I was a little kid. That's one of the reasons I was really bad at math. I understood everything, but the numbers would switch places on the page, and I
really didn't mean to pick on you. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Reese, do you have a learning disability?
Yes, I do.
I just wanted to correct it because
but I'm
people are
old
watching
now,
the
so it doesn't come
video
up too often.
and not seeing the chat. You want to make sure that's 139. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 139.
I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It was actually funny.
Dysgraphia. No, it's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm old now. It's just funny.
I don't think Twitless should be deciding whether it's fine or not.
I'm okay with him being the arbiter here.
So Miracle Man tosses a brick, and that's really all I want to say about issue 3.
And that is probably the best part of issue 3.
So let's move on to issue 4.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they didn't care enough about the Miracle Man to do anything with him until like 100 issues later. So why should we care?
Look at the car at the top panel. That's the coolest part of the whole story is the
That's
flying
true.
car,
Yeah.
the cutaway of the building that they're in.
I don't know. The brick's pretty cool.
And by the way, the Baxter building is like 6 stories in this. So yeah, I assume that it gets bigger later.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Within about an issue. Or they're still there's some unclear writing about the Baxter building. First off, I don't think it's called Baxter building yet, but it's just called their headquarters. And there is we'll get to it in issue 4. Wait, I think it's 5. It gets to issue 5, but they mention it being like underground, and then they're clearly not underground. So like some of the things that Lee is putting in and what the images are saying, or they're not always on the same page. So again, that's some of the.
Yeah, it was just
jankiness.
assumed that like Reed needed more room for the crazy stuff he was doing, and he just started like digging basements and adding more floors on top himself, just extensions.
No. He obsessed after the Mole Man got away.
All right, so let's talk issue 4, which is a really important issue because it is the return of the Golden Age for Marvel with the return of Namor.
Well, and it also solidifies that there is a continuity from the original Marvel comics into this new Stan Lee era.
Right.
And
but wasn't there
a good decision or a bad decision? Let's start with that.
Wasn't there a Human Torch in the 40s though? And they never mentioned that.
Right. Yeah, there was. But the question was, is this an actual like recurrence of these same characters? Obviously, Stan Lee borrowed the Human Torch idea from Marvel Comics. And I mean specifically the title Marvel Comics, not the company at this point. Well, the question is he just borrowing these to reinterpret them for his own thing, or are we looking at this continuity, this continuum of time?
So if you want to pull up my screen now, I've got an image that I think is very interesting for this discussion point, because one of the things that and Hutch can jump in here, but one of the things that Marvel did that added to the whole Marvel kitsch idea was the fact that they were very self-referential, which was the fact that the comics for Marvel were canon in the comics themselves, and so you'd see characters pulling out an issue of their own comics and talking about them.
Right. Yeah, because Reed pulls out actual comic books made by Marvel Comics to scare off the Skrulls. Yeah. And he's like, look here, and he's got like images from what was it? The names were actually Marvel Comics that he's referring to, and that have the giant ants and the big monsters and whatever.
Right.
And they're like, oh my gosh, we don't have to go to Earth then.
I actually like that in the modern stuff, they've just decided that in their world, it just always stayed timely to separate it from the real world company.
Was DC doing anything like this, self-referential at the time?
I don't think so. I don't know about that, but
I mean, yes and no. There were nods to like creator inserts and stuff would occasionally show up in like Supergirl stories and Wonder Woman stories. And
well, by the time the Batman TV show is airing like 6 years later, they are referring to the Batman TV show in the Batman comic books.
Yep.
And refer, I'm on TV now, and it's like you can't have that be a thing because you show everybody you're Bruce Wayne in the show.
No, that's perfect though, right? Because it's such a gaggy show that it would dissuade people from actually thinking that Batman is Bruce Wayne. You're like, this is clearly somebody's interpretation of Batman's life. It can't be anything like his real life.
Right. In the 40s, they did have a Superman issue where Superman takes Lois Lane to see his own Fleischer cartoons, and he's like, they're going to show that I'm Clark Kent, and he like makes an excuse to push her head down so she doesn't look.
I was just about to bring that up. I was like, wait, there's a Golden Age thing where they mention it. Okay, so this is not. Okay.
And Dave also points out, and I knew this and I forgot about it, that Barry Allen read Golden Age Flash comics.
Right.
And that's where that is where he gets the name The Flash, is because he was a fan of the Golden Age Flash comics. He grew up reading these books.
Right. So but they were fiction And that's what established that they were on a separate world when that
Yes,
debuted about
yes.
2 years later.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in Marvel, in some cases, this is canon, though. It's like this is a Submariner comic about the Submariner who is real.
Right.
Because what happens in this story is they see a drifter, and they it's like, oh, this guy looks kind of like the Submariner. Let's cut his hair. Oh, he is the Submariner. The Submariner has now returned.
Yeah, but they also have him reading like Hulk came out that month, and Johnny is reading a Hulk comic book, and saying, "Hey, look, I wonder if you're as strong as the Hulk." And then, like the Thing grabs the comic book away and destroys it. I think that, or Johnny burns it up. I forget what it is, but I mean, they actually have the comic book of the Hulk, even though the Hulk is in the news. But I guess it's kind of explained that, maybe in their world, somebody is just running out making a comic book of
that's
what's
what I
happening.
Love so much about the Captain America movie and how they explained away the the original cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, and also the idea that they've got this propaganda wing that is using Captain America's image to sell this sort of stuff.
Astro City did a really effective bit with that whole concept, which was really good back in the day.
Yeah, I just think like if you were to say that mythology was real, like pretend you're in a world where that stuff was actually happening in the past, whether that is true or not, the same thing would happen in modern times. So if we had heroes running around the street right now, there would totally be people just printing comics about the exploits of these heroes, even stuff they didn't actually do.
Easy.
Right, and they don't know the real story of what their secret identity is, but they can they make up something else, or there is no secret identity,
and that actually happened. I mean, like for the reals, like you look at old dime store novels about Kit Carson, about Buffalo Bill, about Wild. That actually those are real stories, are real people. Jim Bridger, that whose lives were fictionalized, and they'd have
half of the stories of Wyatt Earp never happened.
Yeah, and so you've got Wyatt Earp and deciding, as an old retired man after the whole Tombstone era, deciding whether or not he's going to live up to the stories people are telling about him or not, right?
Yeah,
and and that's
I do think it's wild that the Human Torch burns this bum's hair off just without asking, just like, hey, let's see if what you look like, and he just burns his hair and goes, hey, it's the Submariner underneath.
Oh yeah, that's Let me. I can use I have complete control of my flame. Let me give you a haircut.
Yeah. In the first issue, he's burning planes unwittingly, and now he can control it that nicely to just burn someone's hair.
Hey, you know what? If you singe the edges, at least you don't have to worry about split ends.
This is true, and actually, and there are barbers who only cut by flame, so that's a thing that exists.
Must smell nice. Yeah, there you go.
I think this story is, out of the first few issues, this is probably one of the stronger ones.
Yeah.
The drama with the team splits to the point where Johnny goes AWOL and they have to look for him. So it's not just pointless drama that goes nowhere. It's actually part of the plot. They spend a good chunk of the issue looking for Johnny. Mm-hmm. Johnny's a hothead kid. He goes and works on some cars in a garage. Thing finds him. So that drama actually played into things. And then the introduction of Namor back into the Marvel universe with an anti-heroic, just as much of an anti-hero as he was in the Golden Age, with a very similar motivation to his Golden Age route, but also with a bit of some development, because Namor goes back to his underwater kingdom, which should be there, and finds that it's just a bloody wreck, and his people have not been killed, but there's everything has to do with nukes, right? There's been a nuclear test, and they've left. And he doesn't know where they are, and the whole ocean, they could be anywhere in the ocean. He never knows if he can find them again. So he's like, this is my reason for declaring war on humanity again, because that's a thing Namor did in the Golden Age. Yeah. But this is where he returns to that sort of vengeance against humanity, and that's why he gets to summon another giant monster. Because like I said, these were giant monster comics for the first 3 or 4 issues. So he summons a even biggerer monster than last issue. It's so biggerer that it's it's about Godzilla size, I think. It's about Godzilla threat. It's a whale the size of Godzilla. and they have to like nuke it from the inside to kill it.
Right.
Which is great because it gives like the one of the things I love about the story is it gives a reason in the page to see the Fantastic Four come back together again, right?
Yeah.
They've been kind of on the outs, and they've all got these conflicting motivations, but here they're in a position where each of them have a role to play with the defeat of this monstro or whatever they call this guy.
Yeah, I was about to say
Yeah.
Cartoonicus. When did Pinocchio come out? the Disney film.
31.
40 something. Let me double
It's
check.
Okay,
40,
all right.
Yeah, but
So Lee totally yanked some Monstro for
it
this.
kind of looks like Monstro's face. Yeah,
or
but
Kirby
the-
then maybe not Lee.
yeah, I do think it's wild that
Yeah,
this comic book
1940.
doesn't. I do think it's wild that this comic doesn't, and this is probably where we say that their storytelling gets better. It's like this monster attack is in a panel, that big in the corner, and the nuke going off is in a panel that big in the corner, and it's like you'd think that a nuke going off in a monster and the thing barely getting out that would look awesome. It looks like crap. It looks nothing. I mean, it's like, oh, a
But
nuke went
remember,
off.
this is back when they could actually fit an entire story in a single issue.
I know, but it's weird that these guys who are good at storytelling, it's like you kind of
Kirby's
want
Kirby
it's a
Kirby's
nuke
done better
going
than this.
off.
Kirby did
Just
better
saying.
than this. Kirby did better than this in 1940.
Yeah.
The part of this I think is just there's so much story to tell, and they're
Yeah.
obviously crammed for space because Kirby, like I said, Golden Age Kirby, when he had the room, would do more with it. In fact, the beginning of this very chapter actually has the end of the final chapter has a. There you go. So when Kirby has some space, you'll get a shot like this, which is a good shot. But he doesn't have enough space when it gets to the climax to utilize those.
Well, you also have to ask yourself too, something that's changed from 40 to now, when this comic came out. How many comics was Kirby drawing around the same time? Within like the single month or whatever. It's not even just about how much time on the pages do we have. How much time in the day did he have to draw all these comics?
True.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder when Vince Coletta came in.
So, from the chat, a couple things I want to point out. Somebody says, Colin asks, Submariner was walking around homeless for 12 years. What was he doing? Hitting on random blondes?
He was having a lot of amnesia.
Yeah. In the story, he got separated enough from the water that he lost his mind, and so that he wasn't doing anything. He was just wandering place to place.
Which is a cool. It's a cool way of bridging the gap between Golden and Silver Age. It's actually pretty deft because you have this is something that I was reading in JSA recently. But one thing they had to do as time went on in DC, for example, is they had to actually invent some reasons for why, a bunch of the mystery men at the time weren't able to be involved in like World War II. It's like Hitler had the Spear of Destiny, and that's what prevented. They had to start coming up with like magical reasons for why the Golden Age and Silver Age gaps and such happen, and why they didn't play certain roles in things. And so here they're like, after the Golden Age, he had he got separated. We don't have to spell it all out. He's had amnesia that's why he hasn't been active from the Golden Age up until now. And obviously with Captain America, they do the whole him being frozen away. So they're able to come up with some very interesting links.
Just you wait until we read that All-Star Squadron annual that I've been telling you about. You're going to love it.
Cool.
Seriously, it is one of the great works by Roy Thomas. So anyway,
I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we
so
got some other great stuff from the chat. Says was walking around. Tuner says walk around homeless, which is better than being frozen in an iceberg. Dave says he was working at a sub shop.
all right, so now I think we're ready to do like one of the best issues of ever in Fantastic Four. Oh no, give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. We're about to hit issue 5, which is the introduction of one of the best, coolest comic book characters of all time, my personal favorite, which is.
Okay, so I didn't read this. I thought Reese said 2 through 4.
Are we on? Well, I thought we were covering up to 5.
Yeah. Did I say 2 to 4? That'd be a mistake.
Is that learning disability coming up again?
It could be.
I'm just playing.
Oh my god!
I'm just playing.
You,
I was really tired when I wrote that, so I may have gone wrong.
All right. Well, I got it pulled up, so when you're ready, we can reveal Fantastic Four issue 5, which is where they meet.
I didn't say 4.
Oh.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm a failure.
well, Twitless can educate us then.
Okay. So
Teach us, oh wise one.
So I will happily all day talk about and teach about Doctor Doom, because he is just my favorite comic book character like ever, and this is his first. And it's also like, again, talk about jank. Like even the cover image of him, and then the first shot, and you automatically see that they had not nailed it all down, because he's hands. He's supposed to be fully in armor, and the cover has him in armor. No, he has hands here. The outfit looks different, but
he jumped around a lot. Like sometimes he had actual complex joints in it, and then like the next panel, he'll look like the Tin Man in a cloak.
Yeah, they were definitely figuring out what to do, but they do nail some things here that have stayed, specifically regarding his origin. His origin of always being involved with kind of like dark arts, essentially. His origin of always of having a shared college experience with Reed Richards that gets fleshed out even more as the comics go on. They try to make Doom more and more a part of that story. In this one, he's just kind of like at the same college. It's like he's a fellow student.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew him. He was in
It's more
another
like
class.
it happened.
Yeah.
Later on, though, it's kind of like they become basically like
friends,
collegiate
roommates.
rivals that used to be friends before that, and he
This is
starts
where I was
blaming
saying
things on
Stan
Reed
Lee
that
made
aren't
his
even
first
Reed's
cameo.
fault.
They're basically they become roommates eventually. Yeah.
See, that's where I mainly know all this stuff from the Venture Brothers parodying it with the like Dr. Venture, his friend, what's his name, Dr. Baron Underbite, who is Dr. Doom basically, and he's like chewing out Dr. Venture for being a bad lab partner, and that's why he has the metal chin. It's like you're supposed to guard your lab partner, and I'm like, is that what happened with Reed Richards? Because I don't know their story, but I know the Venture Brothers thing. So I know that the Venture Brothers makes fun of a lot of this stuff, and half the things I know about the Baxter Building and Reed Richards was like Professor Impossible on the Venture Brothers. It's like I know a lot of this stuff just from that, almost. Anyway, sorry to get off. It's the only thing I know about Doctor Doom is Baron Underbite's parody of it.
Right. No, he's a part of pop culture, so much so that you can learn about him like many of these other characters who've become such a part of pop culture without even reading them and knowing their origins. With just so much pop culture, like people know so much about Superman without ever picking up a Superman comic. Same thing with the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom. Yeah.
Now, is it true that if Doctor Doom like finally took his mask off and he has like one little scar?
That depends on the interpretation, but that did happen.
Oh, okay.
One of them, yeah.
So
that's my favorite though, because that he's petty enough that he would just cover up a minor scar. I think that's great.
Wait, he's unmasked for a very long time, or he's masked for a very long time. They do the whole like enshrouding him in shadowy when he takes it off. The typical interpretation, because like they established later on, he put a molten hot mask on his face.
Oh.
So like it's like the canon of his face is that it's completely scarred.
Yeah. It's more of like a joking one when you decide to do like the small little scar.
There was I don't know if it was Kirby. There was someone who wrote and said, in my mind, Doom only has a very small flaw that he has magnified. But that was more of like a personal like interpretation of it. In canon, like he's got like a messed up face.
Okay.
Most runs, and then in fact it's usually a big deal when Doom's face is restored. It has happened a few times in Secret Wars, for example. His face gets completely restored, and he takes it off, and he's just Victor. But that's because he has like infinite cosmic power. So it's typically associated with something like that. But it was a very interesting idea that the other thing could be the case. But in this story, just for anyone who's unfamiliar, it starts off with a crazy thing happening, which Hutch already kind of chuckled at, which is more asbestos. Dr. Doom throws an asbestos electrified techno net over the entire building, giving cancer to everyone inside. And it's like I think the Fantastic Four have cancer immunity as part of some of their powers.
I would hope so. I think
amount-
everyone who has cosmic ray based power should have cancer immunity, even though Marvel doesn't agree with that.
I do have to complain about one thing. They keep saying plane after they say helicopter. It's like, we have to get in his plane, his weird plane. It's like, it's a helicopter. A helicopter's not a plane. It frustrates me. They say plane like 10 times. It's not. It's a helicopter.
Isn't it a little bit of both? Because doesn't it have like jet engines, and he ends up flying with it? It's
It does fly very fast, but it doesn't look anything like a plane. It is a helicopter in shape. I mean, look at that thing.
No, it is very much.
Marvel does the art first, remember? So you can't even make that that explanation that he got it wrong. Like, he said plane, and then the artist does a helicopter, and he's like, what are you doing? No, the art came first because I know the Marvel style.
Is it possible that in the early days of helicopters, they were kind of just calling any aircraft generically?
Even from the very beginning, they were always considered a distinct object, even among the population.
But I'm thinking perhaps in the more average person's slang.
I don't know. And copter is not that much. I mean, they could say copter instead of plane. It's one more letter.
Is he using them
interchangeably? People used to
interchangeably?
just call it a heli.
He calls it a copter once, so I'm wondering if they're just.
But it's the first thing they call it. It's the first thing they call it is helicopter, and then they just keep saying plane. Yeah, get to the chopper.
Or is this another example of Lee, being so bad at his research that he has no idea what the terminology is?
Maybe. It annoyed the heck out of me after the 10th time they say plane. I'm sorry. Actually, before then. It was by the third time.
This is the least crazy thing that Doom ends up doing to the Baxter building, even in these first few issues.
Okay.
So yeah, the asbestos net is like, I don't even think it ranks actually is the craziest things he's done to that building. So he captures them, and then it just gets wild. This is where again this is where they're starting to I think find their speed of just amp it up. So it starts off crazy asbestos net. They end up at Doom's castle, and then you're like, oh, something science-y is probably going to happen, right? And it's like, no, go into my time platform and go find Blackbeard's treasure in the past. I have a time machine, by the way. So, I mean, like I said, swinging for the fences. Dr. Doom's time machine is not a late addition to the lore. It is literally the first thing he introduces them to. As part of
Dr. Doom's been crazy compared to literally everyone's from the very beginning.
Yeah. It's like he opens with the time machine part. And by the way, the time machine is part of a gambit to get Merlin's magical gems, which are part of Blackbeard's treasure, which will make him super invincible. So it just keeps on getting crazier and crazier, and more. The stakes just keep going up, and so they get flung into the past.
Yep.
Competing with Doc Savage or something.
No, Doc Savage wouldn't be I mean, not like stories like this.
No.
Yeah. I do have to mention my favorite part of the story, but I'll get when we get to it. I will mention what I really loved about this story. Okay.
Every Doom story for the beginning run of the Fantastic Four is just this crazy. He doesn't get tamer stories till later on, which is the nuts part when you think about it.
He gets a little
tamer stories like helping Santa Claus, or
no, I think it's because later writers just decided not to do as far-fetched stuff. They're like, Doom, he's a serious villain. Why would he be doing this? But it's this is what he's always done.
So the Fantastic Four get flung back into the past. I think they have like 48 hours in back in time to don't try to think about that. But to try and get the treasure, and then they immediately dress Thing up as a pirate, and he fits in.
Yeah, he's just got a wee bit of scurvy.
Yeah. That's a good explanation. Yeah, he needs some lemons and limes. Yeah.
He's got a skin condition. But the Thing finds out that he fits in better in the past, and so when they find the treasure, he decides to basically punt them off the ship and stay a pirate's life for me.
Yeah.
That's kind of where he decides to leave the Fantastic Four forever, and obviously that doesn't work. But this is part of a very long story where the Thing tries to find his place in society, and finds it more in the presence of misfits than he does around normal people, or and so on. So
He actually rips down a ship's mast and uses it as a club to beat the other pirates. So his pirates are like, "Oh, you're awesome." They don't care what he looks like. It's like,
they're all missing limbs and eyes, and
Yep.
But pirates are usually misfits anyway. A lot of people that
yeah.
they were the punks of their time. They didn't get along with society. A lot of them used to be like privateers hired to steal during war, and they realized they were good at it, so they just didn't want to go back to normal life.
Well, a lot
after
of
they
them just
retired.
got straight out betrayed by their own countries.
Yeah.
They were mad.
So it's like if you're gonna fit amongst anybody, it's gonna be the misfits of the time period.
sure.
All right. So Thing tries to, like I said, turn on his bros and gets swept up anyway. Turns out that Thing ends up being the Blackbeard of history. So the treasure that he found was his own. That's the kind of because they put a black beard on him. He ends up being essentially the Blackbeard of Marvel history at this point. And then they get warped back to the current day, and they pull a switcheroo on him.
Time machine. There's that time machine that's just so awesome.
Yeah. Good thing to mention is that this very simplistic time platform has become a part of Marvel's visual language. They use this kind of like Kirby Crackle. It's something that has just become visual shorthand, and they said into the current period of Marvel Comics, whenever they want to go back in time, and they're using, and Doctor Doom is involved, the time platform. This square of energy that just kind of comes over you and sends you to the past. It's extremely simplistic and very effective. So it's a really
Also a really easy way to do time travel.
very easy to draw too, but in its simplicity, it's actually amazing. So it's a wonderful little bit of comic book visual storytelling, which I think Hutch, you'd mentioned they utilized in the Multiverse of Madness.
Right. And I just think that would be, even though I'm not a Marvel fan, I would think a Marvel fan would just think that was just awesome seeing that on screen, and you know what it is, and they make it look exactly like this. And it would be like,
Yeah, all 10 of them.
Yeah.
No.
But a lot of people just don't go back and read the old stuff. That's the truth, And
Well,
sometimes it'll pop up again, but they've changed how this works several times.
But the visual they've kept.
Yeah.
Like the platform is always like a flat square, and it usually does the sort of like, comes over you or goes up and down as a flat square. They've kept those aesthetics pretty consistent. So then what's interesting is that the story is still like not even over. Like they betray Doctor Doom. Oh, it's a robot. He's in another room. He's going to extract all the air from it. Sue has to help save the day. It's crazy how much they cram into this one. So much that goes on, and Doom just escapes. He just checks out.
Yeah. That's another thing, right? The fake Doom bot, right? That's like literally here in his first appearance too. That's not something that came later.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Now, can I mention my favorite part of this story is that they they just get this treasure chest. They put metal chains in it so that it's heavy, but they already have decided they're not going to bring the. They don't even know why he wants it, but they know that whatever reason it is, it can't be good, and it would be worse to bring it back and give it to Doctor Doom, even though like Sue's life depends on it. So they fake the treasure chest and they say, "We brought back the treasure chest. We didn't promise you whatever was inside it," and then they say that all of the gem, because the boat exploded, all of the treasure is actually at the bottom of the ocean. And when he says, "I wanted it because it's Merlin's magic gems," one of them says, "Oh no, what if Submariner finds that?" And it's like, well, we'll worry about that if that happens. And it's like, just it's a weird little comment. It's like,
I think
oh,
that
since
where it
it's
was
at the bottom of the ocean,
foreshadowing.
what if Namor gets it? I don't know if they're foreshadowing something or if it's just the first thing you think of when when stuff falls to the bottom of the ocean. It's like that would be even worse.
Right. No, yeah, it'd be very bad if Namor got that.
Yeah.
I think that's part of just their of Marvel really trying to do the continuity nods.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that actually comes into play.
But it could be a foreshadowing that never happened.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's possible. But what it's also doing that Hutch is noticing is that, and this is another thing that they created the Marvel phenomena as we know it, is that these comics were always not just referencing each other in a kitschy comic book way, like, oh, there's a Hulk comic. They were constantly referencing issues that came before. They were mentioning characters. They were mentioning people who were still apart. Hey, Namor wasn't in a prison or in space prison or otherwise. He was out there, and he could still be a threat. Doctor Doom is out there, can still be a threat most of the time. And
Mhm.
so these comics are able to continually reference themselves and their own storylines, which gets people invested in the overall lore.
And if you think about it, it's like this would be on their mind because that just happened. And it's kind of like how the one thing I've not liked about comic books is that Superman can go through something really traumatic, like Darkseid throws a net on him that is like more pain than anybody ever has endured times 5 or something, and then he doesn't have to go to therapy. It's like, and
Yeah.
then the next month it's like Batman goes up against the like I don't know, Scarecrow, and has to face like his greatest fears or whatever, and then he just, that didn't, you'd think that an issue later he'd be still, Gah,
Well,
Yeah, or his
sorry.
greatest fear would have changed, and it like, oh man, my greatest fear now is Darkseid coming and destroying the whole planet, not the bats that scared me when I was a kid.
Right,
you know,
but I'm
the
just
thing
saying, you'd
about
think that
Batman
he'd
is
be
that he's
traumatized.
Batman.
Yeah.
So there are two things about that. One, we need less therapy in comics.
Right. I do agree. I
Listen, your
co-sign that.
therapy could be
Yeah.
your bartender, okay?
I think yeah. I mean, there's something for that. And actually, that's a really good point. In Starman, there was a character who basically existed for Jack Knight to go have like these emotional conversations with, and that was his tattoo artist. And he showed up a couple times a year, and Jack would get his tattoos freshened up, and they talk about personal stuff that he didn't want to talk to his dad about, right?
Yeah, and
I'm scared
Matt
of being
Murdock goes to the church, and
right.
confessional
Yeah.
and everything. Your
So-
barber could be the therapist. Like they
Right.
just
So
be creative
so
with
the-
it, make it real.
So there are places in comics where that thing can work out okay,
Yeah.
but when it comes to Batman, I prefer my
Who's
Batman to be an emotionless badass,
I
or
understand
rather have
that.
ultimate resiliency. I guess is
I'm
really
not.
what
I wasn't wanting trauma. I was just saying that something that happened last month should still be on your mind. If it was
Right.
something meaningful and something
What-
big,
What
and
Hutch is, yeah.
that's all.
What Hutch is mentioning is, and I will drop this again. I'll even drop it in chat. It's a very I think a very important critical essay by Umberto Eco when he looked over a bunch of old Superman comics. It's called The Myth of Superman, and he comes up with a what he calls an oneric climate, is what he said pervades these stories. And he says it's a function of them being halfway between a novel and a myth. and he says that essentially you have a dreamlike, ever present. And this is something that a scholar by the name of Kidder ends up calling the Neverwhen, which I love as a term. I've used that all the time when I've written about superheroes. So, but this is it's a feature, not a bug, of superhero stories. I'm not saying it's not irritating or anything, but it is basically this idea, especially with more of the older stories, that essentially time resets for them. And so that the next adventure can happen. Whereas in reality, if you have a world-threatening threat every month, the world would not look the way it should in a comic book. People would be like, it would have irrevocable changes, but the story is always reset. And so, like I said, there's some very interesting reading you can do on that subject. Like I said, I do highly recommend that essay. But it is something that is a part of these stories and is part of why some people critique them specifically for that very reason.
You'd think that James Bond would, come back to the 20th woman he slept with, who then died the next day, and he'd be going, "Oh my God, it happened again!
It was me.
I can't believe this happens!"
Bond just drinks his problems away.
Yeah, I don't think James Bond has that much heart, though. I think that's the problem.
I know, but even that it happens to him, even if he didn't see it as happening to her, she's
also, I do think Batman has counsel. Like, I don't think he becomes an emotional wreck, but his counsel's Alfred.
Yeah.
What's interesting, and then
also depending on the writer, Dick, right? Like you had there were times in the 90s after DC had moved away from every Dick Grayson story being I need to step out of Batman's shadow. Where you actually had stories where Bruce and Dick, in between major events, would have an issue here and there where they just be, father and son, and there would be, it wouldn't necessarily be like pouring my heart out to my kid, but that kind of vulnerability, understated vulnerability between them.
It's like the average dad once his son grows up and they can just hang out.
Yep.
It's not, hey, let's get together and be emotional. It's like, let's go sit in the den and have a beer. Sure, Dad.
Yep.
You hang out and you talk about stuff. Yeah.
Another, I'll mention this and then we can definitely move on from it. But if you pattern, this is something I've written about scholarly for my dissertation work. But if you pattern or model the superhero idea onto projections of American power, what's interesting is the fact that the idea of the Neverwhen, the sort of like every day is a new day reset, is a wonderful kind of mythical construct that allows the United States to always do something big and interventionist without thinking too hard about the other times it's done it. What's interesting is that when 9/11, happens, you have a moment that refuses to be forgotten. You can't be like, oh, well, 9/11 happened and we're moving on. No. So what happens in superhero comics after that is, like I said, is a moment that forces remembrance on a genre predicated upon forgetting. And that creates an instability that I think we're still dealing with. So if you use, like I said, some of those models of thinking about the relationship between America and American power and superheroes, you get some interesting ideas with those relationships.
Isaac has an idea for a story that may or may not be fun to read. This is what if each Fantastic Four goes to a different person and deal with their stress all at the same time, and they tell the story as one talks to a bartender or a friend or whatever. And so everybody's telling a different side of the same story.
That's cool.
That could be a really fun device for a story, honestly.
I do want to interrupt here and just tell anyone who is coming into this stream for the first time, Twitless has a constant, never-ending, almost annoyingly so, reference to how he talks about how 9/11 ruined comics. He is, when he says 9/11, he is not laughing at 9/11. Right?
No. I'm laughing at
clear.
I'm laughing at how often I Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
laughing about how often I bring it up.
It's
the
an
same-
inside joke, but we just relaunched this as a new show last week. So
Please
That's
don't
fair.
cancel us.
That's fair.
So yeah, and it is somewhat like Jim Tuner in the chat. If the show gets a little too boring and he's decided to stick around for whatever reason, so occasionally he'll just bring up blankets just as an excuse for us to not talk about blankets.
Melt down about it. But okay, so what I'd love to do now is I want to kind of check back in with Hutch and be like, now that you've read 5 issues of Fantastic Four and not just one, what is your opinion of the series thus far? Did you enjoy it? Do you regret reading it again?
I certainly enjoyed 5 more than the others because, of course, I know that Doctor Doom is somebody, whereas at the time he was just kind of, how do you know that Miracle Man isn't the one who's going to be the ongoing character? You don't know, but Doctor Doom just is interesting. He's got a robot stand-in. He's got a time machine right off the bat. He has the ability to just take over their building and force them to do his will. It's all intriguing more than any of the other stuff was. So even though I have no, I know who Doctor Doom is. I've never actually read a Doctor Doom story. I have some cultural osmosis, and just the fact that Chuck Dixon loves him and talks about him all the time. I kind of know him from that. But I know that they don't really know how to do him in the movies, and which is why they had him be like a metal guy in the first movies of the 2000s, and then they had him be a guy trapped on a planet and warped there, and he has like cosmic powers, but they're not like mystic powers. And I didn't watch the Four Stick movie, but I know that much about it just from What Culture videos and the like. And I know that they're kind of building up to it in the new movie, which really needs to work to save Marvel, although it has so many actors in it. If they were paid $50,000 each, you've already got way too big a cast. And I know that that the guy they got for Doctor Doom costs $100,000 or $100 million. $100
$100,000.
$100 million. I know $100 million. I just said it wrong. It's $100 million just for him. I think that's over 2 movies though, but it's $50 million a movie, and just on him, because they had to cast Robert Downey Jr. to make that intriguing. I think Doctor Doom is intriguing. I think just saying Doctor Doom is coming to the Marvel Universe, that could get people. They didn't need to put him in there. And I think they've already overspent because they put him as Doctor Doom. And you have the whole, is he from another universe? You've just brought people back from another multiverse. People are sick of that you can kill somebody off and you can just take them from another universe and bring them in again. Yeah. I don't see them really doing that, but there is some tiredness with that, and that's what they're going to do with this. And I liked the Fantastic Four movie of this summer. And
First Steps.
So to get back to this, yes, the First Steps, I really liked it. I love that they did Galactus as Galactus and not as a realistic killer cloud that moves around space. They just said he's a big guy in a gaudy costume, just like he is in the comics.
Space god. He's supposed to be a space god. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't agree with you on that one.
But what, you didn't like that they had?
He likes the cloud version.
I like the cloud.
Which, by the way,
Cloud version's dumb.
The
Cloud version is dumb.
The cloud version and the Doctor Doom being a metal guy are all comic accurate versions of the Ultimate Fantastic Four. So accurate, so to the point that there's actually line for line quotes from Ultimate Nightmare, I think, that show up in Rise of the Silver Surfer. The line about him being a good little nerd and now he's dating the hottest chick, like it's like line for line, except he says it to Nick Fury and not to the general guy. So like what's interesting is that the Ultimate line of Marvel Comics ended up being a template for the MCU. in some cases on a one-to-one basis, because Brian Hitch's rendering of Nick Fury as
Right.
Samuel Jackson, the casting that they did,
Right.
because Hitch draws in photorealistic ways, is what they use to go, oh, that's Nick Fury. So there's what I would love to at some point do some a deeper dive into that. How much of the MCU is like one-to-one from, like I said, and not just the MCU, like even the Ultimate X-Men, I think, shows up a ton in what the X-Men film series becomes. So it's interesting those connections.
Spider-Man.
It's weird that they want to take it from not the real Marvel universe, but the 90s interpretation or the early 2000s interpretation of of those comics.
Well,
That
because the whole point of those comics was to bring it into the modern world.
right. But it's also kind of like how when they made a Green Lantern movie, they have tons of good Green Lantern stories, and they had Jeff Johns adapt the Jeff Johns story, even though that was not the best,
Well,
and it was a terrible source.
The reason they did it that way is because Jeff Johns
Has the
continues to
pull.
make himself relevant because he keeps showing up.
Right.
He
Well, I
kind
think
of
there is
came from
also-
the Hollywood realm to begin with. He got himself into comics. He definitely likes comics. I'm not trying to say he doesn't like comics, but he's a Hollywood guy, and so he's there. They're like, "Oh, hey Jeff, you're a Hollywood guy. Yeah, I guess you go be our Hollywood guy. Okay." And so, what's Jeff gonna do? Well, Jeff's gonna do Jeff because that's what Jeff does.
Right.
I will make just one little devil's advocate counter argument to that, even though there is a lot of like ego in John's stuff. But there is also something to say about having comics running at the same time that reflects the movie that might draw people into comics,
Right.
which is something we complained a lot about, like the 2014 and on Marvel comics, while the MCU has exploded, but none of the stuff that people are seeing is relevant to the comics they might pull from the store at all.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things that, like, and I'm not even trying to bag on Johns for doing that. It would be a reasonable thing when you're hired to adapt stuff for the film. Johns was already producing in that frame because that's the register that he's working in, and he gets paid extra
Right.
for adapting his stuff.
And
they
I
hired
know,
him to adapt.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
I know I've talked about before. I've said this, that when I asked Chuck Dixon, like, why isn't his Joker story, which is a wonderful story, why isn't that made into a movie? He's like, because I'm not there pushing it. Whereas the people who are at DC are pushing their stories to be animated. That's why you don't see The Nail adapted into a movie, even though it would be a wonderful animated movie. The guy, they're not there. The makers of The Nail are not there, and the guy who did The Court of Owls is there saying, "Hey, let's do The Court of Owls." So that's what gets made into a movie, and not great stories that have nobody repping them. So there is that too, and I'm sure Marvel has that too. But nobody is making that much money. Nobody at Marvel is getting rewarded at all, from what I understand, unless they have a special deal already written ahead of time. The guy who creates all these great characters gets nothing from Marvel. DC, they get something, but it's a pittance. And Chuck's still waiting for the big check for Dark Knight Rises, for doing Bane, and they found out that the being paid for Ra's al Ghul, Denny's deal for getting paid for Ra's al Ghul in the first Batman Begins movie was like the last good deal there ever was at DC, because then of course the new people at DC, they don't have the marketing deals. They renegotiated everything to be in Hollywood's favor, and the comics guys don't get much from the movies now. So yeah. I didn't mean to go off on a rant, sorry, but that is the deal, and it's kind of the deal at Marvel, even worse. There's really poor rewarding for the comic guys.
Do you see why I don't want to give money to this company?
Yeah.
We
I would love
we should definitely.
absolutely for them to make like a single like animated for TV length movie of like these first 5 issues of the original Fantastic Four, but compress it like it's just a single business week. Like it starts on Monday and ends on Friday, and that was just like the entire first week of the Fantastic Four. And they just be like wrecked when the weekend comes. Like I'm just gonna chill out in the Baxter Building for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
That'd be
Hey,
amazing.
Happy Cone.
So, well, guys, have we hit all of the highlights?
I wanted to share something if I could.
Yes.
Would I be able to share something? We were talking about stretching, and of course, because I'm a big Ralph Dibny fan, that's on my mind
yes.
all the time. But yeah, they were talking about all the stretching characters that there are, and I wanted to share something that we probably wouldn't do a whole show about. But back in the when was this? Early 2000s, maybe late 90s. There was back when Elseworlds was hot. They did an Elseworlds 80-page giant, which was really good, and unfortunately, it had the Letitia Lerner Superman's babysitter story, which is the best story in it, but it had the baby Clark Kent get into a microwave, and the door closes and the microwave runs while the baby's inside, and then the baby walks out fine, not harmed by it. And somebody at DC is like, we can't have a baby in a microwave. There's imitative things. Somebody might put a baby in a microwave. We can't do this. So then they pulped the whole thing, and the public didn't get to see it. Only some people in England, where it was released early, had a copy or two. And so it kind of leaked to the internet. And then people read the Superman's babysitter story, and it won the Eisner Award, despite being not published. It was such a good story. So the story that they pulped the whole thing for ended up being so big that it did get reprinted on its own. And then the rest of the stories didn't get seen, which bugged me. I understand that it finally was published. Somebody told me that it finally was, because it bugged me because Ralph Dibny was almost not in Elseworlds. I mean, all the Elseworlds stories, Elongated Man never shows up. And he was supposed to be in this, in a story written by Dan Curtis Johnson, who is a wonderful writer, and I don't know what happened with him. Dan Curtis Johnson got a story about Batman in Arkham Asylum. He's a detective, and he and his buddy Harvey Dent are sent out on a case because Elongated Man, Ralph Dibny, is found on the floor of Arkham Asylum dead. And so I have this thing. I'm going to just share it if you don't mind. I'll let's see. I'm going to click present here. Share screen. Which one do I have to? What's it called? I'm sorry. There's all the window. Here we go. There we go. Share. So you should be able to see it. This is called The Reaching Hand. What it is Elongated Man and all the other stretchy characters of the DCU are in a H.P. Lovecraft story. And it's awesome because Elongated Man shows up scared to death. You can see his corpse there is terrified. And they're investigating. Their assistant is Jimmy Olsen, who, of course, was also Elastic Lad historically. And then there is, like, Jimmy dies in the toilet. Somebody shoves him in the toilet and he dies there. And also, Madame Zal, I think, is the other stretcher from the old ones. So they find a cult, and the cult is bringing people from a deep pit. And there they are. And it's what I love about this is stretching is something that would, how somebody takes their finger and bends it backwards in front of you and you go, ew, or they turn their eyelids inside out and you go, ew, stretching's kind of a disgusting power, really. That's
it's a form of body horror.
Yeah. And so there's this, and I love that Jimmy Olsen is creepy even. And
I just like that Jimmy's had every power under the sun at one point in time or the other.
Yes, he has. And it really is cool. I mean, this is a H.P. Lovecraft story. And then Metamorpho crawls out of the pit. That's the big beast that is being released, is Metamorpho. It's really cool. And so he loses Harvey Dent, who is scarred, and he needs a new partner. His new partner is named Eel O'Brien. And they shake hands, and all the fingers curl around his arm. It's Plastic Man, who's a funny character, and it is just creepy. It's such a moment of horror that he's freaking out. So this wonderful story did not get to be seen until, I guess it was finally reprinted, but I don't remember ever hearing that it was. Somebody just told me it was. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there it's an 80-page giant. This is the story here. I was looking for it. This is Letitia Lerner, and this is Kyle Baker, who I was just talking to today. He's the guy who did this, wrote and illustrated. And
on the Lamb, Plastic Man on the Lamb. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the Plastic Man on the Lamb guy.
I love this art style.
Yeah,
and you were here and a bunch of stuff. And
yeah.
Baker's Plastic Man is some of the best comedic stuff. I died laughing.
She doesn't.
Oh, that's the one that
where he crawled into the microwave.
That's the story they pulped because that's this goofy, silly one. Okay.
Yeah, because he goes into a microwave and
it's not like a realistic baby.
Yeah, I mean, realistic, I
understand. Looney Tunes or something, you know.
Oh, the house is destroyed, and their baby is in a microwave when the Kents come home. The Kents just wanted to have a night out at the hotel because they need a little time away from their baby, and they're like, "Can you come next weekend? We'll pay double." After the place is just a wreck, it's hilarious. This was Chuck's contribution was a weekly newspaper strip, the Vigilantes in Department 3B, and it's his Birds of Prey, but as a comic strip. There was a Superman Jr. thing. I'm trying to find the one thing that there's one page that is better than anything else in this whole book. Here it is. The Hall of Silver Age Elseworlds first pages. Because, of course, the Silver Age is famous for the covers and first pages, you know. And so there's like President Abraham Brainiac Lincoln versus Clark Kent Metallo, you know, Luthor's daughter Wonder Woman, Batman with Robin. Here, my favorite one is this Batman and Eve, where she's like, Batman's here. Why isn't Adam here to see Batman?
This thing is real? I thought this was a crazy dream I had.
This is real. It's like, I never see Batman and Adam in the same place. I wonder.
It sounds like something somebody might say on the set of the old Batman show.
I think that's a good a moment as any to end on.
It is. That's what I was looking for. I was just trying to get to this one because these were all done by Mark Waid, I believe, and they're just hilarious. So anyway, thank you for letting me share that. Most people don't get to see the other stuff from there. They get to see the Superman's Babysitter because that gets reproduced in like the Mr. McYizpit book. And Mr. McYizpitlik book, excuse me, and it's been like reprinted several times. But yeah, I don't know what happened to Dan Curtis Johnson, a wonderful writer, and I just he's gone.
I looked while you were looking at that. He left comics to go make software.
Yeah, he never actually entered comics fully. When I talked to him way back when, he was like, "Well, I'm doing my day job," and I'm like, "You aren't a comic book writer as your day job?" He's like, no. I'm just, I'm doing this. He was great, but he never had a real steady gig after doing Chase, which was
is
a
crazy
because
Chase is great.
It is, yeah.
I finally was able to pick up. I think I talked about this on the show about 6 months ago. Pick up the whole first volume. Such good stuff.
Yeah,
or the entire volume, I guess. Anyway, that's a show, ladies and gents. I believe next week we are going to be going over Sonic meets the DC universe.
Ah.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. I forgot we were doing that. That's a real fun one.
I think that's the plan for next week. And unless I'm wrong, and people will yell at me later. How could you say that, Reese? No, I got it.
I think everyone in chat, go read DC and meets the Sonic universe. It's like 5 issues. We can all talk about it and have a blast.
Especially the bits with Sonic and the Flash are the best.
That is really good.
So,
and Hutch can tell us how they got is it Flynn who does that one? And how he gets all the DC characters correct or wrong?
Okay. No, Flynn
find
is
out.
the writer.
Flynn's the writer. He's a Sonic
Okay.
writer writing the DC
Yeah.
universe. We'll see how well he
Oh, okay.
measures up on these
There we go.
characters.
There we go.
I know nothing
It
about
is an
about
Elseworld though,
Sonic.
so
Yeah.
Well, that's the show, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and until next week, keep an eye out for more comics. I got to come up with a new outro. We'll see you all around then.
Signing off, monitor duty.
Signing off. There you go. That'd
Okay.
have been a good one. Bye.